You're listening to SM Media, the #1 place for exclusive content.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the Scottish Football Show Extra right here on SM Media. I'm Scott McPike, delighted to be your host as always. Usually I join with my co-host Shankers, but Shankers isn't on the show this week. But he's actually just told us that he's busy focusing on the medal for the weekend. So we are going to be joined by the two medal representatives this week for this show. We're joined by their co-manager Colin Spence. Colin, it's a pleasure to welcome you on to the show. Thanks for joining me.
No worries, Scott. It's good to be on, mate.
Brilliant, looking forward to it. And we're joined by the goalkeeper as well, the man who will maybe keep Shankers out on Saturday, Marc Waters. Marc, it's a pleasure to welcome you on to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, mate. Looking forward to it.
Brilliant. We've got a lot to get through in this show. Obviously, we're going to be talking a bit about Meadow start to the season, go through some old stories from both guys' background and things like that. And we've got our quick fire questions round, a wee teammates round, and we've got a preview of what's coming up this week. We'll start off with talking about the Meadow season so far. We'll just run through quickly. 20 points from 11 games, 6 wins, 2 draws, 3 defeats. Colin, we'll start off with you. If you'd been told that 11 games into the season you'd have picked up 20 points, would you have took that?
I probably would. I'd probably take where we are. We had a terrible start, Scott. We had... Who do we have? Glenafton at home, Rutherglen away, and Beath at home. It was the first 3 games, and you're looking at it thinking a wee chance here to maybe go and pick up 9 points and get away to a flyer, maybe even settle for 7 points. We ended up with 3 points for the opening 9 games. So I'm not going to lie, a wee bit of panic sets in, and you think, oh, this could be a long season. But probably after the defeat with Beath, we ripped it up. We probably ripped up what we'd been doing, and we went away and we came up with a new plan and we changed our system, and it's been working ever since. We went on a good wee run there, maybe 8 or 9 games unbeaten. So it was worked. What we were doing was working, and it seems to have suited the players as well, and they seem to be enjoying the new system. But it's not just that. We picked up results also. The performances, some of the performances have been excellent for the boys as well. So probably, Scott, I'd probably take where we are now. I take that.
Brilliant. Marc, what's been your thoughts in the season so far? How are you kind of settling in as well?
Loving it. Aye, as the gaffer says, it's difficult this year because now so many teams go down. As he says, 1 defeat and you kind of begin to look over your shoulder. But as I said, as the gaffer said, we've been doing pretty well in terms of the season so far. Disappointing the defeats though, and the nature of the defeats at the start of the season, and kind of back to the drawing board. But aye, it's been good so far, and the boys have really welcomed me. And obviously, this is my first year at Meadow, so it's been great. The changing room's really good in terms of a good group of boys that will really look after each other. And I think you can see that by the amount of bookings we're picking up. To be honest, we're kind of fighting for each other, which is not always seen it at this level. So it's definitely good to be a part of. Aye.
Brilliant. Well, touch a wee bit on your results. Obviously, you mentioned there, Colin, about the opening day defeat to Glenafton, but he's bounced back pretty well from that. 5 wins from the next 6 games after that. The only blip in that was a home defeat to Beath. It must have been good, obviously. A opening day defeat can sometimes be really hard to take, but the boys bounced back well to pick up 15 points for 18.
Glenafton was probably the most disappointing game we've had so far. We just didn't turn up on the day. You know, I think the big build up to the opening league game, and we've been at home, and the first game with the fans back in. I think the whole thing, the excitement of the whole day caught up with us, and we didn't turn up. Fair play to Glenafton, they came and done a job on us that day. But that was the most disappointing game we've played so far. We just didn't turn up. We didn't offer anything that day. And since then we've had a good response. We've also had another 2 defeats since then, but we've acquitted ourselves really well. And I actually think we could be 6 points better off than where we are just now, which if we were, we'd be in dreamland. So no, I'll take where we are now. As I say, it's not just the results, the performances at times have been excellent as well.
Marc, as well, what's kind of been the games that have stuck out to you has been like really hard so far this season? Obviously, we're only 11 games in, but there must be a couple of times where you've kind of been under the cosh. Where did you kind of feel you've done well and picked up good points at?
Well, I mean, the difficulty that it's been is in a few of the games this year, we've actually gone behind. We've maybe not started great, and then ultimately these games were picking up points. I mean, you look at Largs at home. I think before we came on, we were talking about that game where first half we just weren't good enough. We went into half time, reset, and ultimately come away with 3 points. You look at the Darvel game away, again 1-0 down, although it ended in a draw, disappointing. But ultimately going away to these teams, even Clydebank, I know that's a draw that should have been 3 points, but these results at the end of the season are massive because they're going to take points off a lot of the teams in this league, and not a lot of teams will go there and pick up points. So it's ultimately, this season's about beating teams you should be beating and seeing where it can take you when you play the teams round about you. So for me, there are a couple of standout games where we've been behind, as I've said, the Largs and Darvel game essentially. But yeah, it's been good to show the character to come back, going goals behind it. That's something we can do.
Colin, see, obviously the past kind of 18 months, we've obviously known what the pandemic's brought, especially at the kind of West level and things like that. How hard was it to kind of get the players motivated to get back to a kind of Saturday, Wednesday schedule, which obviously we've had for a few months?
Not at all. I think the players were buzzing to get going as soon as we released our pre-season and the guys seen the amount of games that we were trying to squeeze in. They were all really buzzing. They were all happy to see there were so many games, and the boys just want to play games. I was probably one of the few managers that was disappointed to see the end of the Wednesday night games there. We were out of the 4 games we picked up, I think it was 10 points out of possible 12 for the midweek game. So no, it was pretty easy. I must admit, I think everybody was ready to get back to football. It's been such a long layoff this time, and at one time you're wondering when we're going to get back, and with all the restrictions, I think with everything just slightly lifting, there's a real sense of, well, let's get back in about it now, and it's been excellent since we've been back. It feels almost as if back to normal now, with the changing rooms opening up, and we're getting everybody back together. It was really tough at the start when I felt sorry. I did my heart out to the guys when we were playing the games and they were getting changed at the side of the park, and and after the game you're trying to assess the game you're trying to assess things after the game, and the boys are standing there maybe just soaking wet and just want to go up the road and get a shower. So everything's slowly but surely starting to get back to normality, but it's not been an issue trying to motivate the guys at all.
Brilliant. Mark, how important is it to have the fans back? Obviously, with last year, where you potentially played games with no fans and things like that, how good is it just to have that kind of normality back?
Well, that's the word I'd use, a bit of normality. I know it's easy to come on here and be a robot and say, oh, it's great to have the fans back, it's great and easy and that, but ultimately that's what it is. Playing games last year and the year before that, where it wasn't, having them in, it's a totally different game, and sort of levels the playing field as such, because you know what that's like. If you're playing at home and the fans are giving you a bit of backing, or even on your case, it kind of makes you up your game. So it's good to have them back, but it certainly was different when they weren't there, and you can definitely tell a difference since they've came back. So
yeah, definitely. Colin, we'll touch a bit on the weekend's game. Obviously, he's beat Benburb 1-0 away from home. Benburb weren't they at all happy with the decision? What was your thoughts on that?
Aye, they're quite right. I don't think I'd have been happy if it get given against us, to be fair. But I'll be honest, we get one given against us the week before. Which was one of the worst penalty decisions I've ever seen. And also in the first half, we were denied a Stonewall penalty. We handed McLaughlin's through in the first half, and the Benburb boys came through him and took him out, and the referee waved play on. And I actually spoke to the referee about half time about that decision, and I've no doubt that it's still been in his mind when he's gave us the second one. But no, I think Benburb have got a good case there, to be fair.
Were you happy to pick up the 3 points again? As I was touching on as well, Mark McLennan's been a big player as well, scoring a lot of goals for the spot, and he's been one of your kind of key players. How big a win was that on Saturday, and how big an impact has the likes of him and Jamie Martin and a few other players made so far?
Saturday was massive. I said to the boys before the game that I put it in the must-win category. We've been playing cup duty for 2 weeks, and then we had the league game last week, which we lost. So I felt it was massive to get 3 points on the board, because if you don't keep picking up points in this league, you'll soon be looking over your shoulder, and we don't want that, the panic setting in. We've now also, after the Benburb game there, get another 2 weeks senior cup and the junior cup, so it was so important to get the 3 points. So the boys reacted to it. It was a fight, it was a battle, it wasn't pretty at all, but sometimes they're the best wins. When you see everybody, they're in it together, and they're battling away there, and you win ugly, and good teams always win ugly, and Mark McLaren steps up again and puts it away. He's got a fantastic record for the spot, and he's been a real leader. He's been a real leader for us this season. Doesn't matter where you ask Mark to play, he just goes and does a job, and he does it fantastically well.
Yeah, definitely. Mark, what was your thoughts on Saturday's result?
The game it was disgusting to be a part of, but at the end of it, when we've got 3 points, that's all you want. A 1-0 win away from home, no really many chances for either team, and it's can sometimes be a bit dull, but at the end of the day, it's 3 points on the board, and when people are looking at results, they just see that, there's Meadow won again. So it's a good feeling to get that sort of back on track after the disappointment with the co-winning game before. So as you mentioned, it's been a good start to the season, and long may it continue. As the gaffer says, we're on cup duty the next couple of weeks, so you need to get the points on the board when other teams are playing round about you, because obviously the teams that are near the senior Scottish will be playing league games this weekend. That's another 3 points up for grabs, and they hope to take advantage of us being on cup duty. So yeah, it is a big game, and one that we've came through another test. So yeah.
Colin, what was your thoughts in the season so far for the other teams? Obviously, with your old club Auchinleck are top in the league, they had another 3-0 win. The likes of Clydebank had a win. Darvel now coming at one was a result that caught a lot of people's eye. What's been kind of your thoughts in the kind of other teams round about you so far this season?
I think there's some really, really good teams in there. We went up to Rutherglen in the second game, and we came away with a 2-1 victory that night. And I said to James and Davey, I think that's a massive 3 points. I thought they were a really strong, decent team. They asked a lot of questions. Big, strong. They were good at their set plays. And it's a teams at Rutherglen, and I've been looking at the results. They've been doing well, and there's a lot of teams in about that area. But if you're not at it, they'll beat you. And there's going to be so many teams in. I reckon now that you'll start seeing the league into 3/3, you'll get top third. There's going to be a wee middle section, and then obviously the teams that are fighting to stay out of, or will be in the bottom 7 and try to stay out of that kind of bottom 7, kind of dog eat dog. So there's some really good teams, even when I look below us at the minute. There's some proper clubs just hanging over the relegation zone. So it's such a important season for everybody to make sure after the league reconstruction that they're still in the Premier League next year. So there's some really, really good teams in about us, that's for sure. There's some teams that will take points off the top dogs, and also they're in about you.
Yeah, I'd agree with that as well. It's been an up and down start to the season for a lot of teams. Mark, what kind of games have you found quite tough? Like you've been away to Clydebank, away to Darvel. You've obviously had Beath, Cowan, and things like that. Is there any kind of teams that you really thought were good opponents?
Yeah, well, that's what when Spence was talking there, like if I was talking, it's that no game's an easy game, especially in this league where everybody's going to be fighting for their life. With that, as I said at the start, 7 teams going down is a massive. That's nearly a terrible third of the league going down. So ultimately, everybody's fighting for their lives, no matter if you're at the top. As I said, one defeat you can be looking over your shoulder. So there's not really any easy games. As tough games, every game's been tough. But you look at the defeats more like that game at Cowan, the game at Glenafton, they're ultimately really tough opponents where they're going to take points not only off you but off other people. So you kind of take defeats and look at them and try and sort of reassess. But ultimately, they're all tough games. Couldn't really pick out one. But yeah, I would say that every time you sort of go on the pitch, it becomes a battle, especially in this league, like Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. Colin, what's the kind of motivation now? Obviously, the Scottish Cup on Saturday, the Junior Cup. Was it important to be in the Junior Cup? Obviously, a few teams for the West chose not to play, and it was important for the club and the fans to keep that tradition of playing in that competition.
That was a club decision. Probably if it was my decision, I wouldn't have entered it. To tell you the truth, I feel now as soon as the East teams left, I feel like all the prestige left with it. Certainly every time we done well in it or we got to the final or we won it, you had to beat one of the big boys in the East to get there, and they were always the games you looked forward to. It's always if you drew a team in your league, it was you know each other. But when you went through the East Coast and you get a Bonnyrigg Rose or a Kelty Hearts or a Linlithgow, they were the games that we always looked forward to. So I think as soon as they left, it took the magic of the Junior Cup out. It's still an unbelievable trophy to win, and listen, we'll be all in it to win it this year, that's for sure. But I think a lot of the prestige has left the cup now, unfortunately.
Yeah, Mark, what was your thoughts in the Junior Cup as well? Obviously, in the Scottish Cup, is it good to get playing as many competitions as possible, especially after a long layoff?
Absolutely, that's what I was going to say. The more games, the better, because obviously we're missing nearly 18 months of football. So for me, I'd enter every cup every cup going. So I'm happy to play in the Scottish Junior Cup. I don't. These Monday Wednesdays don't bother the boys. I know that everybody in the team, they prefer playing games. If they could play games 3 times a week, they would. So I'm more than happy to be a part of it. And as the gaffer says, it's all about going out there and winning. So it's the same with the senior Scottish. The club have done great to get their licence and ultimately be part of the Scottish Senior Cup with the preliminary round against Musselburgh and done well to get through that. A really tough test. Again, another game where we went down 1-0. So, but it ultimately came through it, and that's that. So I am more than happy to be a part of it.
Yeah, we'll touch on that the upcoming Scottish Cup game later on, but we'll touch a bit on both of your careers in the game, Colin. We'll start with you. How, after your playing career, we'll touch about your playing career in a second, but how are you settling into management? How different are you finding it, obviously being a player for so long and then going into the other side of the game?
I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it now. I think we got the job, was it maybe the February time before COVID came? So we only had 2 or 3 games under our belts. Then obviously COVID came, and we've still got the new management, the new coaches, the kind of enthusiasm, and you're thinking COVID 6-7 weeks it'll pass. What's COVID? Do you know what I mean? You're thinking it'll not be here long, and then sure enough, we're kept out of the game for all these months later. So we were probably really frustrated because with the buzz of getting the job and the excitement, I've been in a new role, and then we couldn't get doing anything. We couldn't get working with the players. Even you're trying to talk to players to come on board, it was extremely difficult. It was a hard time, but now we're up and running again. You know, I'm absolutely loving it. I'm probably surprised myself that I've not really missed playing too much at all. There's the odd game you think, put the boots back on today, but over the piece, you know, I think the buzz I've been getting for the boys going out and winning on Saturday, it tops anything I've ever felt when I played. That's for sure. I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, obviously you and James have obviously the history of playing for Auchinleck and things like that. Was it important you kind of went in together as co-managers?
I wouldn't say it was important. I think at the time when we spoke to the chairman and Brian Lamb about the job and they offered us it, we were both still big parts of that team, not just the squad. We were both playing every week, and we were both kind of at the time still big parts of the team. So it was a case of, well, if we're going to this together, you know, I might need to play one week and you might be playing the other week. You know, I don't think it's possible to do the player management role alone. I think there's too much involved, especially a club this size. You need to be on one side or the other. But if we were going into it together, it was a case of, well, if I need to play one week, you'll be in the sideline, and then vice versa. It didn't work out that way with COVID. COVID came and that put an end to that. So listen, it's working. It's working quite well. You know, we've spent a lot of our careers together, and James a plumber, I'm a tiler, so we spend a lot of time at work together as well. So it works for us. You know, we're never off the phone, never stop hearing from him. But no, it's working. So as long as it keeps going well, we'll be happy. But we're in it together, that's for sure.
Brilliant. Mark, what's been your thoughts since you've been into Meadow?
It's been great. I just want to clarify, the 2 of them still join into training, and I can confirm that the 2 of them are definitely finished playing. Jesus, man. Definitely that. But since I joined Meadow, brilliant. As I said earlier on, I've been welcomed with open arms. I signed when I left Clydebank at the end of COVID. I signed with Peasy, and they sort of decided they weren't going to play. So ultimately, it was a new start for me to come back into the top league and basically essentially prove that I can do it. And I feel that it's going well so far. Ultimately, the end of the season, time will tell. But I'm happy where I am. It's a really good set of boys, and ultimately, as you've said, 20 points. So far, it's been a good start to the season. So long may it continue. Yeah,
definitely. Colin, how important was it to get Marc in?
It was very important. It was James. James had got into Marc early doors. We had a really good keeper last year. Like Kyle was in. We got Kyle. He actually contacted the club. It's a bit of a fluke. He was a teacher and he was moving through to the West Coast, so we took a gamble on him, and he'd done excellent. But it was about May time, and he kind of dropped the bombshell that he was leaving. So it kind of left us in a lurch late on that we didn't have a goalkeeper. So to get Marc in was fantastic. And we've also got Davy Markey there, who's been top notch for us as well, you know. But I believe that Davy's pushed Marc all the way, you know, and I think Davy's helped bring the best out in Marc as well. So we're in a really fortunate position to have 2 top class goalkeepers.
Yeah, definitely. Marc, what's been the kind of your highlights, your kind of playing career so far? Obviously, you spent a bit of time in the seniors, and now you're down to the West. What's been the kind of highlights of your playing career so far?
When I saw this question, I thought, I need to start thinking of things. What have I done? What have I won? And I thought, I'm going to ask him about all his Scottish Cup wins, and I'm going to be sitting here fucking sleeping, and he'll be bringing out his medals and all that, and I'll be thinking, but in terms of highlights, it's just keeping playing for fun, you know. It's highlights, no many, to be honest, but just being able to play. I had an injury when I was very young that it was kind of touch and go as to whether I'd be able to play again. I'd basically done my knee and it was shattered, so ultimately it was very touch and go. At only 8-year-old, been not able to play again, so I've been ultimately been able to play at a decent level and do so, as you've said, at whatever level it is, and as it continues in the West, it's been really good. And that's I mean, highlights just being able to actually do it when you're told something at a really young age that you might not be able to do it. That can be quite soul destroying. So being able to get back up and come back and keep doing what we're doing and playing at this stage has been my highlight, what I would say.
And who have been some of the best kind of players and characters you've met in your career so far?
Wow, a lot of them, a lot of characters in the team. I mean, one of the best guys I ever met was a guy called Scott McKenzie. He's now the assistant at Albion Rovers. He was assistant at Ayr United. I don't know if Lyle maybe know him, but funny guy, just totally a bit of banter every single day. It was never a dull day with Scotty boy. But in terms of teammates, you always have one or two jokers in a team. But I mean, the likes of the Meda, there's no really any identified joker. You know, everybody has a laugh with everybody. It's a group of mates going for a fight on a Saturday. That's the sort of way I feel. It's not just going for 3 points. We're going to fight and we're going to win. You know, and ultimately, if we don't do that, it's back to the training ground. And I've played at teams where if you get beaten a Saturday, you end up with 6 and 7 at training on a Tuesday. Ultimately, we're getting the good numbers at 20, or the full squad there. Sorry, on a Tuesday. So that to me it's great to be a part of.
Yeah, brilliant. Colin, your kind of career, the 11 years at Auchinleck, obviously we've touched on, Marc touched on there about a few Scottish Cup wins, but that dressing room must have been funny as well before we got into your playing career.
It was early years, you know. It was Tucker just let us control the dressing room. The boys just ran the dressing room. There's so many boys that were there for so long. So anytime there was ever a bad egg come in there, they just kind of get kicked out. But early years, you know, we me and Macaulay and Stephen Mallon and, you know, these guys, big Derek Anderson, you know, I was a young lad at the time and looking up and all these guys, Eric Phillips, they were incredible, you know, some of the stuff they done. Big Derek Anderson and Stuart Davidson, I think they ran over a Fez at one night on the way down from Paisley and they stuffed it in Alan McClucky's bag. You know what I mean? And they had it under his towel and all that, and they put it right under his bag. So he went home the next day. He was getting off his nut. Oh, that was before WhatsApp groups, and he came into the training on the Thursday. You put a fucking Fez it in my bag. My wife took it out, and the dead bird under the towel and all that, under the wet towel and the wet training gear. It's fucking disgusting. But that was just some of the stories. You know, some great characters early years ago to meet. Brilliant guys.
And was it a good kind of atmosphere as well with the success you had? Obviously, Tucker was there for the whole duration. What was he like as well, Tucker? Like, you must have some good Tucker stories.
You couldn't explain what Tucker was like, honestly. You couldn't replicate what he does either. You know, just people say, will you try and your managerial career, will you try and emulate Tommy Sloan? You couldn't. I remember a night I was struggling. It was a Thursday night. I'm trying myself fit for the Saturday. The boys are training at Greenwood and the Astro, and he pulls me out to the grass. Right? You've got to go do a fitness test, Spence. I said, I know what he's saying. And he's got a ball in his hand, right? He's this ball in his hand that's pissing the rain. And I'm looking like, what are we going to do? And he's always that wee uneasy at the time. You always get that wee bit of an uneasy silence with Tucker. He doesn't say too much. And I'm like, what are we doing then? I'm feeling fit. I want to play on Saturday. And he just get this ball and he just kicks the ball. Fucking, you can't even see it anymore in the dark. What am I doing? Just go and get the ball. You're fucking sprinting, getting a ball, and you give him it back. You're like a dog playing fetch with him, and that's just some of the stuff he'd done. You know, it certainly wasn't for the book. You know what I mean? He'd just done a lot of things off the cuff, and it was some man. He really was.
And what was your kind of favourite memories of your time at Talbot?
We had some really good times. We did. My favourite memory, it was going to Tynecastle when we went to play Hearts. You know, it was. I always remember. Well, obviously, we were major underdogs, but there was an injury. I think it was the boy Darren Barr he got a really bad head knock. And he was down for 6 or 7 minutes. So it was in about the 80 odd minute. I remember the boy David Templeton and Andrew Driver, and they were talking to us like, we're not going to break you down here. Like, we're going to get absolutely lambasted. And you know that way, you just kind of had a sense. You just kind of look about. There's 14,000 people in the stadium, and you just got a wee funny feeling going through me that day. I just felt like I really belonged there. Do you know, it was one of my favourite memories in football. Obviously, we went on and we lost a late goal in that injury time. I would have been so close to probably producing the biggest ever cup upset. So probably going to out of all the cup wins, I must say, going to Tynecastle that day was phenomenal. A great experience. I'll never forget.
Yeah, brilliant. Mark, what's obviously the kind of highlight of your kind of time? Obviously, you went to Clydebank as well. What was it like? Obviously, going to that level, and what's been kind of your highlights since then?
No, not really much difference in level, I would say. You know, there's some players, and especially this year, you think a lot of these players could play in senior. You know, you're playing against guys that have been there and done it, and you're also playing against guys that are playing probably a level below themselves. Especially, you could probably pick a couple of players for each team in this league. In terms of memories, playing at Clydebank, you can't beat a Scottish Cup away day. We went and played in, it's like the Junior Cup. I'm saying I love playing that. You go, you get a win, or no matter the score, you can come back on the bus, you get your drinks, and ultimately a night out after it. So the Scottish Cup away days, you can't beat them, and especially after a win. So that would be the highlights of that. I think one of the years we went to Canoe up in Perth and got a day out after that, and just phenomenal. You know, I think that was about an hour and a half, 2 hours in the bus through to Perth and stuff like that. That's ultimately, I know why you play football, but it's a big part of it. So having fun, you know, you can become really serious at times. You've got to kind of take yourself too seriously, and I'm a big advocate for that. I take the piss at myself at the time, and obviously the piss out the boys as well. So it's a big part of it. The changing room helps that, especially when you've got a good changing room. Yeah,
definitely. I don't know if you've watched the show, but we always do a quick fire question round with the manager and a teammate round with the players. So we're good to get into that, and we'll see what the answers are.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
Right, we'll start with Colin. Has the infrastructure in the club changed since you first arrived?
Massive. I signed with the club as a player in 2018. You wouldn't believe the difference that it's been. You know, I think the lockdown certainly helped. I think the committee were at a loose end, and they went to town. I think the work that they've done to get that licence in the space of time is incredible. I think clubs work 3-4 years to get their licence. Your committee have done it within a year. Unbelievable, the infrastructure change. Incredible.
Blue or green?
Blue.
Do you have ambitions to move up the ladder?
Got to. I think you've got to, especially at a club like Irvine Meadow, you can't stay still. So that's got to be ultimately the ambition, definitely. Why not?
Win the league or win the Scottish Junior Cup?
Nowadays, the league all day. Before, it would have been the Scottish Cup, but no anymore. It's got to be the league.
Best player played with?
Been there, done both, he says.
God, you know something? I played with some top players when I was at Gretna when I was a young lad. There was some unbelievable players at that time getting paid a lot of money. But do you know what? I would give it to, and no for ability, Stephen White at Talbot. It's just something about playing with Stephen he's the strongest boy I've ever played with. You know, he used to say, I don't want the ball, I'll tackle, and when I get it, I'll give you the ball. You don't need to worry about coming back too much. I'll deal with whatever the threat is, and I'll just give you the ball. You know, I love playing with him. It was great.
Who's the worst?
The worst player I've ever played with? God. Wally
Lyle. That's
sorry, Wall.
Favourite manager in the league?
Favourite manager? There's a few good guys in the league. My favourite manager would probably be Stuart Davidson. We are named Liam down at Largs, top boys.
Least favourite manager in the league?
Least favourite? God. I've not been in it long enough to make any rivals yet, Scott, so you maybe need to ask me that in a year and I'll probably be able to give you a few, but right now I've no made any. Well, I don't think I've fell out with MD yet, anyway.
Best player played against.
Best player played against. God, fortunate enough to play against Russell Lapity a few times. He was incredible.
What was his surname there?
Lapity. Lapati.
Lapity.
You know who I mean anyway, so it could have been that bad. He was phenomenal. What
Who was he
a
playing for,
talented
Falkirk?
player. What's that?
Was he at Falkirk at the time,
He was at Falkirk, guy. He was unbelievable. He really was. Didn't even try and get near him. Incredible player. In the juniors, there was a guy called Martin McGarvey that played, I think, with Halfley and Beath. He was a midfield player. He was different class as well. Like, he played with the Scottish international team. He was probably the best junior player I ever played against. Different class.
You could sign 3 players from another team, you can sign 3 players from other teams in the West. Who would it be?
3 players, other teams. God. Take Chris Duffy, Pollock. I would take Fizz for Beath, decent player. And I would take Jamie Glasgow, Talbot.
Football and hero.
Football and hero. Growing up, Paul Gascoigne. Later in life, Iniesta.
Brilliant. Mark, best player played with?
He's already been on my case today, so maybe Mark McLennan or Nicky Little. I'm not sure. Both of them have been on my case today about the questions you're going to be asking, so I'll give them at 50-50. They were both asking me to vote for them in the Player of the Month this month, I know. So I've had to kind of put 50-50, aye. So I would say definitely the best trainers anyway. Both put it all in on a Tuesday and a Thursday and ultimately reap the rewards on a Saturday.
Blue or green?
Yellow.
Football and hero.
Growing up, loved watching Casillas as a goalie, and then as I got older, started to like Pepe Reina at Liverpool. So just goalies for me. Big weirdo.
Worst player played with?
Jesus. Wow. Worst player played with? Got to come for somebody here. Who was it that was messaging about my hairline? Because it's him.
Get him named.
Aye, get him named. Don't know. That's a hard one.
He plays with you.
Oh, Jesus. Don't know. Come back to me. I'll think about it because I've got a few people want a name on here.
Win the league or win the Scottish Junior Cup?
Win the league, definitely.
Do you have ambitions to move up the ladder?
Absolutely. Need to win the league first. So if we're going to do that, then need to keep doing what we're doing and cut out some of the mistakes that are dropping us points in games. But yeah, got to move up and got to have ambition.
Best goalkeeper in the league apart from yourself?
Definitely, I think you've got to look at what Talbot have done and Big Andy Leishman. I think to win leagues year on year on year, you build a base, and ultimately you need a good goalkeeper to do that. So, Big Andy, definitely.
Right, we'll get into teammates as well, because how we're going to work this is I'm going to ask Mark first, and then Colin can agree or disagree. So we've got a few questions here. Best trainer, Mark, who we got?
At the club now?
Yeah.
Mark McLennan.
I disagree. Boy's very, very professional.
Worst trainer?
Because he's always late. Kyle Falls. Can he deal with people being late? Punctuality is shocking. To be fair, he is always working. But I'm going to say Kyle because he's late.
Working or on that golf course, one of the two. I'm not sure what it is sometimes.
That's exactly it, honestly.
Team Hardman.
Couple of fake card man in the old Meda team, by the way. Couple of guys that are always starting fights, and then when it actually happens, they're all running away. You've got Carnwath, you've got Wardrope, big mouthy, but then when it happens, they all run away. So one of them, I'd probably say fake. I'd put fake in brackets round that.
Fortunately, the hardest man, he's been injured for last season, big Callum Gow. He would all day long. Doesn't lose many battles, the big man.
Yeah, that's true.
Most skillful.
See if the West of Scotland League was played in 5-a-sides and we had Jamie Martin, we wouldn't have lost a game this year. So I'm going to say that he's the most skillful, because when you play him in these wee games at training, you fucking balls glued to his foot, so you can't get near him, I'd say.
I agree with that.
Quickest player.
There's a few speed merchants, Mark. Yeah,
there is. Aye, a couple of speedboating drivers though. Jared Willett for one. I'd probably say either Jared. Big Neely was fast at the old training last night. He was cruising at a canter. He was racing Big Jamie White right enough. So, but yeah, I'd probably say Jared. He's right.
There's a few of the boys that can run. That's for sure. There's a good bit of pace in the squad.
Mm-hmm.
Slowest player.
Why are you looking at me, Colin? No, I'd probably say myself. Aye, that's definitely
easy option, Mark. You're taking easy option.
No, I know. But if it wasn't me, then Big Jamie White, he's towing a caravan, man.
Colin, what do you think?
The slowest. Who's the slowest in there? Sometimes Dylan looks slow. Yeah, but he's quick. He's got enough in his locker of the 5-10 yards, and that's what a striker needs.
Worst dress sense.
Oof, Jesus. I know a few of the boys would probably say me, and that's a few of the boys I've played with over the years definitely would say me, but there's no way. Worst dress sense. Ryan Carnwath went a night out with shorts on once. That was the last night out at Meadow, I believe. So that's just pathetic and unacceptable. So I'm going to come for him. Yeah.
Go with Iso. Happy with that.
Yeah.
So
few boys play it safe, to be fair. It's a good few of them play it safe in the night out. I know.
They're all dressed in black, that last one. Team going to rob a bank.
Final question, teacher's pet.
Wow. I can't remember the game, but we were getting beat and we brought it back to win. But Jamie Martin ran from the other side of the park to both the gaffers, Latta and Spenny, and gave them both a hug. So I'm going to say him for that, because that, for me, pathetic.
I think he'd done that to make sure he was getting picked again next week. It worked.
Right,
So
what we've done as well, we opened the floor to the public to get involved, and they have more than ex-teammates, current teammates, fans. There's a lot of people getting involved here, but we'll start with Colin. We've got a text here from a friend who played with you at Auchinleck. Ask Colin what happened in the black chicken and his stag do.
Oh, I can't say in a family show. When he possibly able to say we need to cut that one out. The black chicken, eh? I can't possibly say.
Yes, he did actually praise you in this. We'll give you a guess at who it is, because he's also a manager. More that he was a very underrated player on our invincible season we had at Talbot. The partnership him and Whitey had was sensational. Do you want to guess who it is?
If he's a manager, I don't know how we can say underrated. I got player of the year that year. player of the year and players player. It can only be Gormley or Butch.
It's Gormley.
I'm not sure. Gorms.
Gormley, yes. How funny was he? We've had him on the show. Give us a Gormley story before we.
Gorms was actually quite quiet when he first came into us. He was. Tucker actually spent a few bob on him, and it took him a wee while to settle in. It was great. It was great value. He came in. We played Linlithgow Rose in the cup final in the 3rd of May, and we flew out to my stag do at 5 o'clock the next morning. And Gormley was probably man of the match on the stag do. He wasn't too good in the game, but he got the winner that day, to be fair. Came off the bench, but it was what a laugh he was in the stag do. He's a great boy, brilliant boy.
Another ex-Talbot teammate is asking about your stag do as well. Why didn't you get the team tattoo in your stag do? Is this another cut out of the show?
Listen, the boys that went for tattoos were just trying to get themselves out the pub for an hour or two. I was too busy in the pub, like real men don't go for tattoos. You know, we stay in the pub. I think out of the 15 years it went, there's only about 3 years that didn't get a tattoo. And I was one of them, thankfully.
Was that how good was that camaraderie in that Talbot team? You got likes of Butch, Gormley, obviously Popey's there as well. There must be a really good kind of atmosphere in that dressing room at that time.
Oh, it was unbelievable changing room. It really was. I said it just pleased itself. It was a great group of boys. The amount of nights out we had, and over the years the wives, they all get friendly as well. And when you've got that, and once you get the girls involved, and as long as they're getting on anyway, they're not causing any bother. It can't go any better, because the amount of nights out we had, you know, it was a stage where we'd maybe nights out a month, where it was the boys maybe one weekend and then we'd take the girls out was the next weekend. So we were always socialising together. It was great. A wee quick story after that Linlithgow game, the night out in the railway, which is always carnage. Some of the boys didn't go home. I went home that night a wee bit early, and I went to the bus company to get our strips. I wanted the strips for the stag do. I mean, I just grabbed the first 6 or 7 I could get, so we were at the top, and Gormley had his phone on the next day at the pool, and we had the strips on, and he video called wee Willie Lyle. Willie couldn't make it out, and I was like, oh, that's brilliant, he's got strips, and that's great. He's like, he's got my strip, and so I'm like, number 2, and don't do anything, don't put it on. Just at that, Gormley, a wee butch, is getting flamed down the chute, down the flume, and jumping in with Willie Lyle's strip on. He's like, oh no, I've got to cherish that and frame it forever. Sorry, Willie.
Brilliant. Mark, there's a couple for you here. First things first, we need to ask you, how did you go on in your first team day out this year at Meadow Park?
Jesus. It was a bit of a session. Turned up expecting a couple of beers, and we ended up the full day. Terrible. And again, done my usual, got far too drunk, and then we had a bit of banter, started going for people, and all ended in tears. That's it.
Ask him about his off face jacket.
Oh Jesus! See, the very same day, we're sitting in during the lockdown. They had the gazebos up at Meadow Park for the punters to come in and get a beer. So we went down in that, a bit cold. I'd wore my jacket, a good North Face puffer jacket. Boys were giving me a bit for it, bright red it was. I was getting pelters, so I basically stood up and told them, this is North Face, bit of designer gear. And then as I said that, the end of the North Face has come down and peeled off. And then I've actually thought, do you know what I'll do? Because it was a reversible jacket. Now that I think about it, pretty shocking jacket. As I stood up and tried to reverse it into the blue, I've peeled off the whole thing, the whole North Face sticker off it. So I'm still getting pelters for that this day, 6 months later. Had a nightmare that day.
Who would win in a fight between you and Ryan McKee?
McKee knows who's winning that all day. Ultimately, that's what it was. Marky and McKee. Nearly rolling about, but it all got sorted. Don't worry about that.
We've got another one here for Colin. Spenny's a good guy. Ask him if it's true about spending 10 years at Talbot and being on the transfer list for 8 of them.
Aye, that's true, to be fair. The good thing is everybody remembers the last 2 years, which were my best too. So because of that, everybody thinks I'm a top player.
Another one here. We've got another good one. Ask him about the time Willie Howie punched him after a game because Spenny got him sent off.
Aye, that's true, to be fair. I think Pollock were I think they were in relegation trouble, and apparently wee Willie was a booking away for getting a 3 or 4 match ban, and he came through the back of me and I went down as I used to do. A bit quite bad for that, and he got booked, and I've never seen him. He just lost the plot, completely lost it, and then I mean you're talking about an hour later. After the game, he's been waiting on me. He started throwing punches. Brilliant, man.
We've got
another, to be fair.
Can you guess who told us that? Another Talbot teammate.
I wouldn't have a clue there.
Right, well, come on. I'll tell you off here because that's a few belters come in from him there. Can you also ask Mark how he cost the boys a decent amount of kitty money against Clydebank and his best mate Nicky Lyle's 96th minute equaliser?
I need to know off air who said that because they're getting it tomorrow. No, disappointing that he scored his 100th into me again. He's no shut up about it. I think he said to me he's on the show next week, and I'm gutted that you're going to be asking him about it because I've relived that moment plenty of times. How
are you enjoying car school?
Oh. So there's 6 boys or 5 boys that come from Glasgow. So I'm for the south side, and there's a car school that goes for Darnley. And ultimately, after various requests, still not part of it, and they rub it in my face every time we're at training, and I'm driving by myself. So that's definitely Carnwath that's asked that, I would say.
Ask him about his fines this year and how he is contributing.
Pathetic. I'm always forgetting something, whether that's jumpers, shorts, socks. Always forgetting something, and I need to make do with what I've got. So, sometimes a bag of washing when I'm coming straight for work, but so that's how I've paid for most of the night out, basically.
We also opened it up to some fan questions as well. There's a few come in here for Colin.
Might get some sensible questions now then, Scott.
We're back to some sensible questions. Most memorable game in the Scottish Cup and also the Junior Scottish Cup?
In the Scottish Cup, Hearts, easily Hearts. And in the Junior Cup, it was the final against Linlithgow. I was a captain that year. That was the year we went the Invincible season. So to pick up the trophy, that was a special moment for me. Really enjoyed that one.
Who will be the Talbot players Meadow will have to keep quiet to get a win on Saturday?
Oh, listen, you don't start focusing in one, because if you focus too much in one, another one will get you. You know, they've got 5 or 6 top players at the top end of the park. That Tucker's got an unbelievable armoury on the bench as well. And it was proved the other week there when Marc and Brian have come on, changed games for him. So listen, we will not be focusing on any individuals.
Marc, do you have to be a bit daft to be a goalie?
Definitely. Goalie's got a lot of stick, especially in the meta changing room. Jesus Christ. You have to have thick skin, and I think anybody definitely would have to be a goalie, but they're a rewarding position. I'd recommend it.
How was it playing for Elgin, and how long a journey was it every couple of weeks?
Good. It was about 3.5 hours. We met at the bus at the Red Deer at Cumbernauld. One of the boys had a big V-Class Mercedes, big Jai, and he would take the boys up, and we'd do it in about 3.5 hours. Stop for a bite to eat on the way up. So you probably left the Red Deer about 9 o'clock, got there about 1:30, ready for kick-off at 3 o'clock. And then some days out, as I said, the Scottish Cup days have been good, but the days out on that bus have been phenomenal. Straight, you leave Elgin at 5:30, back to Red Deer for 9, and then straight to the Toons. So couple of great nights out, stories for that.
Brilliant. Colin, a couple more for you. Can you ask Spenny what his ambitions are at Meadow over the next few years?
Got to go as high as we possibly can. You know, at some point over the next few years, I'd love to take them into the Lowland League. That would be a dream. You know, I think there's a real appetite for it at the club. Obviously, before there was a glass ceiling at the juniors, but now the sky's the limit. So it's certainly an ambitious club these days. So to get to the Lowland League would be fantastic. And then who knows what happens when we get there.
Who are the biggest characters you have played or managed with so far in your career? We've kind of asked you this, but so give us a couple of other names.
Biggest characters. Wee Macaulay was a proper character back in the day. Derek Anderson was probably the biggest character I've ever been involved with. He was different class, a big man. Loved him, I really did. More modernly, Gormley was a proper character, and then you've got like Dean Keenan at Troon, wee Midge Oren. When I walked into that Troon dressing room, I didn't know what hit me, actually, to be fair, at the start. So there's a big few characters there.
We're going to move on to talk about what is coming up for Meadow, and obviously we're going to start with the game on Saturday. Marc, I'll start with you. Obviously, Auchinleck Talbot in the Scottish Cup. It doesn't get any bigger, does it?
No, it doesn't at all. I mean, especially being a senior Scottish Cup, there's, as we said when we met the day after the draw at training, you know, there's easier draws out there, but there's no better games. This is the draw of the round, ultimately. And it doesn't come much bigger, as you say. I've been the benchmark for a long period of time at this level. So, but as we spoke about before we came on air, it's ultimately 11 bodies against 11 bodies, and who comes out on top depends on performance on the day. So I'm really looking forward to it. I can't wait.
Colin, how big is the game going to be for you? Is this probably your biggest game as a manager so far?
Obviously, to get through this round, or maybe not the next round, maybe to get to the third round financially, it's very rewarding. But for me, our biggest fights in the league this year. It's a big club. It's a big game for the club. But I said last week, for me, the biggest game for me was getting the Bamberg game and getting the points on the board for that. Saturday's a cup title. It'll take care of itself. But it's a big occasion. There's no playing that down. But ultimately, it's a Scottish Cup. You know, it's a cup as a club we can't win. You know what I mean? But it's like it'll be a great occasion. But probably the biggest game in my managerial career so far. Maybe in prestige, but I'll know probably have the most meaning. That's for sure.
Marc, how much are you looking forward to that game for the club and the fans as well? And obviously a big game that's going to be on you're going to, obviously the cameras there. It's going to be one of the kind of games you'll look back on in years to come.
It's good. I mean, there'll be a decent crowd there on Saturday. There's no doubt about that. I don't know. I think the club have sold out all the hospitality and things. Plus, Talbot always bring a good following anyway. I mean, you look at the Musselburgh game we had in the preliminary round with a fantastic crowd there, and then the Merrimack game the night before, or the couple of weeks before. Sorry, the Irvine, the Meadow fans come out in numbers. They're really, really good in terms of helping the club out when they need it. But ultimately, Saturday, you need to try and block that out and go for, as I said, the 11v11. You know, you're playing the top teams, so it's really about who turns up on the day. I seen an article for the Gaffer today saying we can't carry anybody, and that's true. We're going to need the full squad, so that's the basis for moving forward.
Colin, are you quite disappointed that the game's not going to be on the TV or anything like that? Like, I know there was talk about that originally.
It'd be great for the players. Fortunately, they're talking about moving to the Monday night, Scott. So I just think it shows that there's no great appetite in the part-time game for Monday night football. I think it would have lost a lot of its atmosphere. I'm not saying the crowd would have been down, but I think on a Saturday afternoon, that's the day for us guys. That's the day we play football. You know, I think the Friday night would have been great if they could have brought the cameras then, or even the Sunday afternoon. But unfortunately for me, the Monday night would have took a wee bit of the edge. You know, especially with two giants of the non-league game meeting in the Senior Cup. It would have took a wee bit of the edge off it in the Monday night, but it would have been fantastic to get it televised.
Yeah, definitely. But we're going to wish you all the very best for that game and for the rest of the season. We are going to wrap up the show there. It's been an absolute pleasure to have Colin and Marc on. Thank you very much for coming on. I hope you've enjoyed it.
Cheers, Scott. I did enjoy that one, mate. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much to everyone that's tuned in. Please follow us on social media and subscribe to our podcast and YouTube pages. Thanks very much, everyone. Take care. We'll see you soon. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.